The air in Romano's was thick with the scent of garlic, expensive perfume, and unspoken judgment. I adjusted the simple silk shell I'd worn, a piece from my own Luna Forge collaboration line, feeling the weight of my family's gaze as I took my seat. It was my parents' 35th anniversary dinner, a lavish affair at the kind of old money Italian restaurant where the waiters knew my father's preferred Barolo. For me, Clara, that 31-year-old creative daughter, these gatherings were less a celebration and more a quarterly review where I consistently failed to meet expectations. My younger sister, Laura, held court beside her husband, her sharp, lawyerly wit dissecting the latest corporate merger trends. She was the gold standard. At 29, she was a partner track associate at a white shoe firm, her success as tangible as the platinum Cartier watch on her wrist, a gift from our parents for her last promotion. I was the contrast, the founder of Luna Forge, a luxury jewelry brand I'd built from a burning passion and a $5,000 loan. To my family, my world of Instagram algorithms, artisan gem sourcing, and midnight packaging sessions was not a career, it was a little online hobby. The demolition began with the appetizers. My mother, a high school chemistry teacher who valued predictable formulas, turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "So, Clara, any updates on the venture?" She said the word like it was a temporary skin condition. "Actually, yes," I began, a flicker of hope igniting. "We've just finalized a partnership with a boutique in Tokyo. The Japanese market is responding incredibly well to our—" My father, an accountant for whom the bottom line was the only line, cut in with a chuckle. "Selling baubles to Japan? That's nice, sweetheart. But when are you going to focus on something with a real 401k? He turned to Uncle Ron, a bearish man who ran a local car dealership. "She's still convinced she can make a living on Etsy." The table erupted in familiar, patronizing laughter. Aunt Margaret patted my hand. "We just worry, dear. The internet is so unstable." The main course was served with a side of escalating humiliation. Laura, sensing an opportunity to showcase her own stability, leaned in. "I was reviewing the financials for a client's daughter who started a candle business. She learned the hard way about liability. Clara, you really should let me look over your whatever you have. Make sure you're not personally liable when this doesn't pan out." "It has panned out, Laura," I said, my voice tighter than I intended. "We have a team. We have contracts. We're projecting 7 figures this year." My father snorted into his ossobuco. "Projections are fantasies with decimal points, Clara. Your mother and I see your life, working in pajamas, packages piled by the door. That's not a CEO. That's a glorified postal worker." The cruelty reached its peak with the champagne toast. As a waiter approached with a bottle of vintage Dom Perignon, my father waved him to pour for everyone. When the waiter moved toward my empty flute, my Uncle Ron, his face flushed with Merlot, boomed, "Ah, save that for the adults with real jobs, eh, Clara? Maybe when you get a proper office, you can have a glass." He winked, as if this were good-natured ribbing. I sat there, my hands clasped in my lap as my family raised their glasses to real success and lasting security. My mother's eyes briefly met mine, not with apology, but with a silent plea for compliance. "Don't make a scene." My phone, resting on the linen beside my plate, had been buzzing persistently for 20 minutes. The screen showed a cascade of notifications: Sarah, CFO, Jason, COO, legal. I'd silenced it, but the vibrations were a physical tremor against the tablecloth, a heartbeat from the world they refused to acknowledge. "Is that your little game again?" my father sneered, nodding at the phone. "Can't even last through a family dinner?" "It might be important," I murmured. "What's more important than family?" my mother asked, her voice laced with disappointment. As if in answer, the phone lit up again. A text preview flashed. "Sarah, $50 million acquisition offer from Meridian. Deadline tonight. Non-negotiable. Call now." The words seemed to hover in the air. $50 million. The number was surreal. Meridian Fashion Group was a titan, the kind of company Laura name-dropped in her deal stories. Just then, the phone rang. Sarah's face filled the screen. The shrill tone was a siren in the hushed, clinking ambiance of the restaurant. "For God's sake, Clara," my father hissed, his patience gone. "Turn that toy off. This is embarrassing." Something inside me, a dam of 5 years of condescension, of dismissed milestones, of being the family's creative flake, broke, not with anger, but with a crystalline calm. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice suddenly clear and carrying. I picked up the phone. "Sarah, I'm here. I'm putting you on speaker. There are some stakeholders here who need to understand the urgency." "Clara, thank you. I'm here with Jason and our outside counsel. We have the final, signed term sheet from Meridian Fashion Group. The offer is $50 million for 100% acquisition of Luna Forge, inclusive of all IP, inventory, and the Milan manufacturing contract. The deadline for execution is 11:59 p.m. Pacific tonight." The world stopped. My father's fork clattered against his plate. Laura's jaw went slack. Uncle Ron's boozy flush deepened to a purplish red. My father found his voice first, a strangled whisper. 50 what? This is a joke." Sarah, hearing him, responded with crisp professionalism. "This is not a joke, sir. The offer is based on Luna Forge's audited financials, $8.2 million in revenue last fiscal year, 47% year-over-year growth, and distribution in 127 high-end boutiques globally, including Bergdorf Goodman and Harrods. We also need Clara's immediate sign-off on the 7-figure royalty deal with the Worthington collection with Saks, which launches next month." Every word was a hammer blow to their reality. My mother stared at me as if seeing a stranger. "Harrods?" she breathed. "You're in Harrods?" "I tried to tell you when we got the purchase order 6 months ago, Mom. You said it was nice and changed the subject to Laura's new convertible." Laura, the corporate lawyer, was the first to fully comprehend the scale. "You have outside counsel? You have audited financials? A manufacturing contract in Milan?" Her voice was a mix of horror and dawning terrible respect. Uncle Lon, who just hours ago offered me a minimum wage job answering phones, looked physically ill. The neighboring tables had fallen utterly silent, every diner straining to listen. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady, "please email the documents to me. I'll review them in conference with you and legal in 30 minutes. Of course, Clara. Congratulations again. The Milan team is ecstatic about the spring line. They're calling it una rivoluzione." The call ended. The silence that followed was deeper and more profound than any that had come before. The narrative of the evening, of me as the family's charming, failing project, had not just been disrupted, it had been vaporized. I stood up, the legs of my chair scraping softly on the tile. I looked at my parents, their faces etched with shock and a dawning, ugly shame. "I have to go handle this," I said quietly. "Happy anniversary." "Clara, wait," my father began, standing, his earlier arrogance completely deflated. We didn't know. Why didn't you tell us?" I turned at the edge of the table, meeting the eyes of my entire family, who were all looking at me for the first time, not as a disappointment, but as a revelation. "Because you never asked the right questions, Dad. You asked when I'd get a real job. You never asked what my business did. You asked if I needed money. You never asked if I was profitable. You saw my home office and saw a child's playroom. I saw a global command center. We were never looking at the same thing." Later that night, after an intense conference call, where I, as majority shareholder and CEO, made the decision to decline the acquisition to preserve my company's creative soul, I sat in my playroom. Sketches for the next collection were strewn across my desk, beside a crystal paperweight from a satisfied retail partner in Paris. The texts from my family came in slowly, then all at once. I read them all. The validation I had craved for a decade had finally arrived. But the bitter truth, served colder than Romano's tiramisu, was that it came only after a price tag, a $50 million price tag, had made my worth legible to them. Their pride was not in my creativity, my resilience, or the beauty I'd willed into the world. It was in the number. I responded with polite professional courtesy. I accepted Laura's offer with a clear contract. I agreed to the lunch at a restaurant of my choosing. But the little girl inside me who once had longed for their applause had finally left the building. She had walked out of an upscale restaurant and into her own empire, leaving behind only the echoing silence of their miscalculation. Their anniversary toast was to real success. They just hadn't realized they were sitting at its table.